but they have like this game where you just like click and unclick to buy and sell a
Hmm.
stock. Like they just take a historical stock value and you just like click and unclick to get in and get out as you're going. And it's just like so nerve-wracking. Like, is it gonna go up? I don't know. I don't know. And I think that was a really like just having those hands-on experiences
Yeah.
are what they want. They want to really like, think through the problems. Welcome to the Teacher Money Show, the podcast dedicated to helping teachers navigate your unique financial challenges and unlock your financial superpowers. I'm your host, Sean Morgan, a full-time educator and personal financial coach and speaker. And I'm here to help every teacher, whether you're a seasoned teacher looking for fresh insights or a new educator navigating your first paycheck to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. I'm super excited to have Gabbi Cerezo on the show today. Gabbi is the daughter of two teachers. She's a certified financial planner and an accredited financial counselor. After spending time as a teacher herself, she transitioned into finance to better serve teachers like her parents and colleagues. Gabbi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you too. So you're the daughter of two teachers. You were a teacher, and now you do financial planning. I'm just curious, how did you get into education? I mean, I feel like that's kind of in the story already, but I want to hear like, the track. How'd you get there? And then how did you get into finance?
Yeah. Sorry for a long story. I tried to condense as much as possible, but essentially, as I mentioned, my mom has been an elementary school teacher for over 20 years, and I was always voluntold in her classroom. So I feel like I've been teaching longer than I have on paper. And I always knew that I wanted to help people. And I think a lot of people go through this when they graduate from college. They don't really know what to do next. And I just saw teaching as like a very clear way to help people. So I also became a teacher. And it's funny and sad. My mom was upset with me for becoming a teacher because she, I mean, all the teachers here, like teaching has a lot of stress and it has, many issues that we're all still trying to work on solving. But yeah, I really loved it. I had lots of fun. I only taught middle school for 2 years. And then my school had declining enrollment, so they could only offer me a 60% position. Um, and I know at that time I lived in the Bay Area, so I could not afford to live off of a 60% salary. And I was also even like living in a converted garage at that time, so I was really trying to save money. Um, but I was offered to, I could have done like an intra-district intra-district transfer, but I was so burnt out. I like couldn't bear the thought of having to like start over, go to a whole new school, set up a classroom, like do all new lesson plans. So I had been listening to the Teacher Retire Rich podcast, and I know I think you had Dan on the podcast here, right? Yeah. And so it's co-hosted by someone who's a certified financial planner. And yeah, I was like, what is that? Like, I started looking into that because it seemed really interesting. And that's how I started transitioning from teaching to financial planning once I delved into like, what does this even mean? What do you have to do to be a certified financial planner? So
Well, not every, 2-year teacher listens to the Teach and Retire Rich podcast, although I wish they did. So what got you into that?
oh yeah, that's like kind of also what pushed me towards personal finance too is growing up I had a lot of I think you had another episode where people talked about like financial trauma or like,
Mhm.
and there's like different levels of trauma. I don't know if you've heard of big T trauma and little T trauma. So I had smaller trauma, not like
Yeah.
anything too drastic, but definitely like a topic that my parents argued a lot about growing up. And for me, when I was in high school and, my parents had various financial issues, it was around like 2008. So, I feel like that's kind of a good shortcut there. Um, I thought if I learned about money and how to manage it well, maybe I could help my parents. So I actually started to be really interested in personal finance when I was in high school. Economics was my favorite class. I took AP economics. I think I had a really good teacher, which always makes a big difference. Um, and so that's really like where I started with personal finance. When I was in college, I was almost recruited to like a Northwestern Mutual type like internship, and I I quickly discovered that that was not the kind of person that I wanted to become. I did not want to be a salesperson. And that's what I thought all financial advisors were like. So when I listened to the Teach and Retire Rich podcast and I realized like there are financial planners that are doing things in their clients' best interest, they're not selling annuities and things like that. Then I was like, oh, I've always been interested in this. This is another way I can help people. And even like I saw for my parents, even in high school, I was helping my mom figure out her 403b, and I like showed her like, Mom, you're in like this high fee annuity, you're not making any money, it's not growing. So it was like something I always wanted to do, but I didn't know it existed until later. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the most annoying thing is, and there are paths to it, but like I thought about, working on becoming a CFP, but I feel like
Mhm.
you need experience to become a CFP, and it's like most places that offer experience are not places that I want to go get experience. Like it's
Yeah.
just like I don't want to work for these people so I could become a CFP. So I know there are other routes, but like the most straightforward route is to just have experience on hand, and most people that are hiring to give, entry level experience are just like I would feel icky about myself working there. So
Yeah.
it's a real conundrum.
Yeah. And actually, that was really hard for me switching into the industry. Like I sometimes really felt like my soul was getting sucked out of me. And I basically found my boss. She did a podcast interview, and she was a math teacher for 14 years. She also became a financial planner and like was doing both at the same time. And I basically begged her. I was like, I don't want to like help, rich people get richer. I want to actually help teachers and, real everyday people with their money problems. So after, I think I emailed her like once a year until she hired me. So it was like 4 years of me emailing her and saying like, please, like, this is who I actually want to work with. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that your heart is in the right place and that now you're helping teachers with their money. That's fantastic. We aren't here to talk about that though, although that is fun. We want to talk a little bit about teaching personal finance in the classroom because it's coming, everybody. If you're listening to this, you probably like personal finance, and it's coming as a wave. We've got Project 2030, 2031. I don't remember what it is. NGPS project to get every single state, having a personal finance class on the books as a requirement to graduate, by either 2030 or 2031. They're not going to make it, but it is still a great goal. And that because of that, we have more than half of the states already with the law on the books. So likelihood is that we're going to need personal finance teachers, and you're probably going to be it if you're listening. So I think this is a topic that we need to continue to explore and talk about as much as we can, so that way we don't end up with stale, boring, textbooky, ugh, personal finance.
Non-applicable. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the national standards for personal finance, the number of things that they expect people to cover that are just not relevant to everyday life are insane. Like they want you to memorize all sorts of insurance terms. I'm like, people mostly just need to know what a premium and a deductible is. Like, you don't need to know all these other things. So it's just trying to make sure we're focusing on personal finance, not the finance jargon side of it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Um, and we were talking about like what do we want to do on this show, and Gabby's like, well, what if I talk to you about it since I'm teaching personal finance? So I'm going to ask Gabby where she wants to begin today with our discussion on teaching personal finance.
Yeah, I think a good place to start, actually, this might be kind of surprising. You started off this podcast even with an episode talking about how teachers need to have their money mindset kind of figured out before they can make real progress financially. And you've revisited that a few times. What was your money mindset journey like? And you were really interested in personal finance before you became a personal finance teacher that helped you like advocate for it at your school. So yeah, I'd like to start there.
Yeah, so being a child, and by child I mean teenager of the 2008, I felt like that, along with my natural predisposition, made me very scarcity mindset. Like I'm just like, there's not enough money. I've got to hold on to what I have. Like, how do I not lose it because, my dad is a general contractor, and
Mm,
that was just not a good time to be a general contractor. We made it, but barely. And so through that, I had this struggle, like, money is a struggle type of mindset going on.
mhm,
But I was always interested in money. My
mhm,
my dad also was the it's called personal management merit badge counselor for Boy Scouts when I was younger. So I knew that, like, there was this way to manage money correctly. He also owned rental property. My grandfather owned rental property, so I knew that there was like this personal finance side stuff over there. And right when I started teaching, because teaching was, what I wanted to do, I had a window salesman tell me about the Bigger Pockets podcast, which is for real
yeah.
estate. And then I got into Bigger Pockets Money, and I found out that I really like listening to the money stuff more than the real estate stuff, even. And
Mhm,
that's just what opened my eyes. And I went from, this money is, something to be scared of, but like, I want to be a teacher, and I'm never going to make it because I'm a teacher. I'm going to be poor, but that's okay. I expect to be poor. To
mm,
no, there's got to be a way. Because I
mhm,
heard all these, people, they're super scrappy. Like, I'm going to find a way. I don't have any money, but I'm going to figure out how to, start investing, start growing my wealth.
mhm,
And I was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. So
mm,
it's just this weird roundabout way of getting into learning about it, and by hearing stories from other people, that's how I opened up my mindset to I can do it if
mhm.
if anyone can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm really excited about to have personal finance be mandatory for all students because, if they're not learning anything about money directly from their parents, then who else do they have to learn it from? And like teachers are probably the next most relatable adult in their lives that they can, maybe see themselves like, oh, if my teacher's talking about this, maybe I can also figure this out or even like help my parents figure out some of the stuff that we're going to be learning. So,
Absolutely. I mean, so like when I talk about this to teachers, I like to point out, like, we have two different options. We can either say, I'm a poor teacher, therefore I can't, we can speak in
mhm,
that way because people expect teachers to talk like that,
mhm,
or we can say, I'm a teacher and I'm successful and you can
mhm,
too, right?
mhm,
Even if we don't like intend to, that message is going to kind of bleed out of us
mhm,
in our everyday interactions with our students.
mhm,
The poverty mindset or the wealthy mindset. And it's so powerful when you have this narrative of teachers are supposed to be poor, and then you have
mhm,
teachers saying, but I'm not because
mhm,
I learned how to manage my money.
mhm,
That can change so many, like, all these students that are in poverty, that are struggling, they can truly change very quickly when they have a model, an example of someone who
mhm.
is not like, a millionaire,
Yeah.
bajillionaire, whatever, but just like a regular person who's like, no, no, it's very possible to become financially successful without a ton of money upfront.
Yeah. And on this journey of like your money mindset, do you feel like that has affected your teaching with your students? Like how much have you been able to like maybe heal your own scarcity mindset while also teaching the students about it, about personal finance?
Well, yeah, I feel like because my money mindset shifted,
Hmm.
I'm a better personal finance teacher.
Hmm.
Because I am okay with, like, the ups and downs of finance, the abundance as opposed to the scarcity. I'm
Hmm.
able to give my students very raw examples. Like, I
Hmm.
walked through with my students, investment that I did that was terrible investment. Like, it's cost me tens of thousands of dollars, over $100,000, I think, because of
Oh,
just terrible
yeah.
circumstances. But I was able to walk them through that and be like, this
Hmm.
happened
Hmm.
because sometimes things don't work out. Risk is a real thing, right?
Hmm.
But I'm also able to say, on the other hand, but because I'm investing consistently in my 403b, and I have a good, low cost 403b, all that stuff, I'm going
Yeah.
to be a multimillionaire by the time I retire.
Hmm.
So it's all good, right? So I just feel like having that correct mindset is what, instead of being like, oh, let's just learn about this or that, and I'm not going to talk to you about what I'm doing. Like, I'm just like, no, it's all good. It's all coming, going. It's flowing. We're going to get there. It makes for a more dynamic discussion because I'm comfortable sharing
Hmm.
when it's gone bad and when it's gone good, and just believing that it's going to turn out because I know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's helpful for other teachers that are going to be teaching this to know you can bring in your own personal examples. They don't have to all be wins, they can be mistakes or losses. And really, I think those are going to be the ones that stick in your students' minds more anyway. So hopefully, we'll also avoid the mistake that you made.
That
Yeah.
would be really nice. I hope that they all avoid the mistake that I made. But yeah, I made some mistakes when I was getting into it, but it was just really, unknowns
Yeah.
and timing, right? And
Yeah.
I love this example because it's an example of like you can do an
Yeah.
investment right and
Hmm.
it still go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just
Yeah.
that's called the risk. And that's
Yeah.
so anyway, the point I'm making is like having those examples on hand where
Hmm.
you've tried it and you've made a mistake and it's real life and relatable. It's not like Susie Joe gets a paycheck of $500 a month and like
Yeah. And they're like, what's a
no,
paycheck?
right?
Like,
Like
what is
it's like
that?
it's just you don't want to do bland generic stuff. You want to really relate it.
Yeah. Um, and I think another piece of the mindset that I wanted to share with people, having been a teacher, my parents are both teachers, and now I'm a certified financial planner and a career, all the things. Like, I actually was never a math person, and I do most commonly see math teachers becoming financial planners. If I see that path, or I see math teachers being the ones that want to teach personal finance. But you're a history teacher, right?
Mhm.
And I taught history as well, English and history. I've never thought I've been good with numbers, but what I have been good at is I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to like go on YouTube and figure out like, okay, how do I use this Excel spreadsheet? Things like that. So I really want to encourage people, teachers to know that like you don't have to be quote unquote good at math. And that's also like, something that people feel about money is like, oh, I'm not good at money or I'm not good with money. And it's like, well, just like you talked about before, like we need a growth mindset here. Like all of us need that with our money. So
Absolutely. And I try and be very transparent with my students. Like we're gonna do the math right now, but you're not going to have to do the math like when you're actually doing like we did the math behind tax brackets. Like I wanted them to
mm-hmm.
calculate how much they would pay out of each thing because I felt like that was going to help them really like understand it if they like
Yeah,
concretely did
exactly.
it. And then when we finished, I'm like, congratulations. Never do that again, please. Like
Yeah.
just
Use the
go
calculator.
to a tax calculator and have it do it for you because that's just like a total waste of your time, right? You're like, yes, there is math involved, but it's more conceptual math because the math just kind of happens. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to like calculate the odds of this or
Mm-hmm.
that, or like you don't have to figure out all of the, how much is it going to cost. Like I don't have to know that 0.04% is going to cost this much versus, 4% costs this much. I can just be like, 4% is clearly bigger than 0.04%. I want that fee instead of 4%. Like, it's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
a, it doesn't have to be so number driven.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like, personal finance should be more of the personal management than the actual like dollars and cents piece. Yes, the dollars
Mm-hmm.
and cents is tied to context, but understanding personal management, just how to manage yourself,
Mm-hmm.
is the most powerful thing that we can teach our scholars, students. We call them scholars in my school, in in personal finance class.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm really curious, like how you've put together, or did you receive a curriculum for this class, or have you been putting it all together yourself? Like maybe a
I did not
combination.
receive a curriculum. So the
Didn't
school
think
I
so.
teach at is a classical school, and I had to like say, hey, we can teach this in a classical model. The classical model involves a lot of reading primary texts and discussing them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just chose great books. Richest
Mm-hmm.
Man in Babylon. As more
Mm-hmm.
of a textbooky version, I chose How to Adopt Personal Finance to the Real World. I had Jake, who's the author of that, on the show a few months ago. And that
Mm-hmm.
one's just like, basic like understanding definitions. And then we're reading the psychology of money to get like the behavior type of understanding piece behind it, and the simple
Mm-hmm.
path to wealth for understanding investing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
great because we read those things and then we get to just be like, okay, let's talk about it. Um, now that I've done it 1 year, or I'm almost done with it 1 year, I'm gonna go back through and add more case studies because I did one recently that was really good. I want them to do more of that. Like every time we learn a new concept, it's like, okay, now in this situation, this is where they're at. What should they do? What is a
Mm-hmm.
way that they can adjust their situation to
Mm-hmm.
improve their life? I think that that's the most applicable way of approaching it. Like, okay, here's where
Mm-hmm.
we're at. What do you do? Because then when they get to that situation in their own life, like, oh, here's where I'm at. Now what do I do? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the adjustment, the tweak I'm planning on making moving
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Yeah. And that was another question I had for you is like, what have been the most successful or engaging lessons or activities that you've done in your personal finance class?
Yeah, definitely that one. We I have like three students who are convinced that day trading is the right thing to do. No matter what I say, I'm like, dude, please just get your investments solid before you think about day trading. And I might have convinced them, but we had this one, I think Bloomberg.com. I can look it up, put it in the show notes at teachermoneyshow.com/podcast. You can find the show notes there. But they have like this game where you just like click and unclick to buy and sell a
Mm-hmm.
stock. Like they just take a historical stock value and you just like click and unclick to get in and get out as you're going. And it's just like so nerve-wracking. Like, is it going to go up? I don't know. I don't know. And I think that was a really like just having those hands-on experiences
Yeah.
are what they want. They want to really like, think through the problems and have
Mm-hmm.
those hands-on experiences where they're doing something actively.
Mm-hmm. And I think, something that I struggle with my clients and even for myself is budgeting. And so I'm really curious, and maybe that's surprising for someone that's a certified financial planner, but truly, I just don't like budgeting. I don't think, I think some people do love it, some people really hate it. I think I relate better to most of my clients because I also don't like budgeting. But how have you explored that in your classroom? Do you have like one type of budgeting method you go through, or kind of do multiple? Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we have one lesson where we talk about the different types of budgeting, and then I
Mm.
bring my strong opinion in that it's not a real budget unless it's a zero-based budget. I tell them they can
Mhm.
ignore me later, but we're going to do a zero-based budget in this class.
Mhm.
So I've created a spreadsheet that is a zero-based budget where they get
Mhm.
to build it, and we slowly build it over time. We go, okay, what's your chosen job? What's the entry level position, salary
Mhm.
for that job? And we put that in. We're like, okay, great. And what's a two bed, one bath rent in the place you want to live? And they put in the rent. And then it's like, okay, you got all this extra money. Go ahead and like, subscriptions and fun and gifts and travel and go do that. And then I come back like, oh, wait a minute. You need a car, don't you? You have this much money to buy a car. If you want a nicer one, you're going to have to get a loan, right? And then they
Yeah.
decide, like, yeah, this is the kind of car I want, so they get a loan. They have to put in the car payment. It's like, oh, you need insurance and you need gas now. So then they
Mhm.
adjust their budget for that. And then we go on to um, I think student loans is next. Anyway, like you went to college. Did you have to get loans? Most likely,
Loans,
like
yeah.
look at the college you want to go to. What kind of loans are you going to expect to get at that college? If you're going to go to community college, maybe you don't need loans. But if you're going to go to, UC Davis, you're going to need loans, right? And
Mhm.
then and so they have to keep adjusting their budget. Or the fun one was taxes. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you remember how you divided that by 12? You're not going to be able to do that anymore because you've got taxes. So we like, adjusted
Yeah.
our income by the tax rate. And like we just have been slowly changing over time. And then we have okay, now it's invest for the future. And I have built in like an investment compound interest calculator that also spits out the 4% rule, like how much is this worth per month at the end, and it
Mhm.
compares that to their monthly spend. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, now let's play with this number. Like, how much do you need to invest every single month to be able to retire in 30 years? Do you want to
Mhm.
retire sooner? Would you want to invest more to be able to retire sooner? And they can
Mhm.
like see that actively change in real time, which if anyone wants that spreadsheet, uh, I will go ahead and get that pulled up on my website and put that in the show notes as well. It's the same spreadsheet I actually use for like when I'm doing like speaking for with
Oh,
teachers and like we work through a budget because a budget's a budget. Like I'm not going to
yeah.
use a fake budget for my students, right? I'm giving them like I tell them this is a workable budget. Like you could
Mhm.
use this, if you wanted to. It's not like, I got all the bells and whistles that like YNAB has or whatever, but it's workable, and that's what we were using. So I'll put a
Yeah.
link to that, and you guys can use that. You can take my branding off of it and put it on yours. I really don't care.
That's so
It's a
nice of
spreadsheet.
you. That's great. Through this process, have your students had any like aha moments aside from, I think that kind of already sounded like one where you said, they see like, oh, if I invest more, maybe I can retire earlier. Was there anything else where they were like, we're gonna, I don't know, maybe they're like, oh, we're gonna move in together so that we can save money on rent, or like, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had one student who said, I'm going to live here because my family lives here, and this
Mm,
is what I want to do, but I cannot afford a two-bed, one bath. And they asked about a roommate. Like they jumped immediately to that. I had three students who said, we all want to go to UC Berkeley,
mhm.
which is not cheap.
Yeah, very
And
expensive.
and they're like, and we decided if we all get in, we're just gonna all room together in a tent because we can't afford rent there. So
Oh,
like for them to realize like this is how much it's going to cost to live somewhere. I think
yeah.
that was a really big one. But then like a lot of my students have been like, I always thought I had to choose individual stocks. Like the index fund concept
Oh,
just
yeah.
hasn't, they didn't realize that. Or like, I
Mhm.
always thought that cryptocurrency was the thing to do. It's like, but it like, yeah, they still are like, yeah, I want to do crypto. Like I want to be in that because it's, the new thing. But
Yeah.
they're like, maybe I should go with a more conservative base, right, for my investing. So
Yeah.
there's been a lot of investing aha moments, some with the budget as well. Um, I'm I'm working on refining the investing curriculum piece because, like I said, I still got a few scholars or students who are just like, nah, like it's totally good to be day trading, man. I'm
Day
like,
trading. Well, I, you, and also feel free to call them scholars. I think that's totally fine. I think in some ways, I hope for students to maybe make some mistakes when they're younger, maybe even if they go off and they do day trading like at age 18 or something, because then at least they hopefully learn their lesson early on in their lives. And then they're not doing day trading when they're like in their 50s, closer to retirement or something like that.
yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
there are ways to day trade and make money. I've had the person on the show that's made money day trading.
Hmm.
I just
Hmm.
want to make sure they have a strong financial foundation before they're doing that. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
anyway, like, so those are just some that popped into my head right off the top. But it's really interesting. Like, I try and not say this is the way to do it. I just say this is what the author thinks.
Mm.
What do
Oh,
you
interesting.
think, right? This is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
this person said. Here's another point of view. So I gave like you know,
yeah. Hmm.
this author says day trading's a terrible idea. Here's a article that supports day trading. What do you
Mm.
think? So I wanted to,
Oh,
or
really
this is more
fair.
not it's not so much day trading. That was more individual stock picking. But like the point is, I was trying to like give them a fair approach, and doing that, the vast majority have been like, yeah, I'm just going to do an index fund, right?
Sounds like too much work over there.
Like I because you gotta like I tried to find the best article I could find, like the least confusing, the most positive stock picking article, and it's just really confusing. It's like really hard to understand. They're like, yeah, I don't want to do
Yeah,
that. Like the four
yeah.
scholars were like, yeah, I'm interested in doing all the analysis. It's so much fun to me. I'm like,
Hmm. Hmm.
have fun. The other ones were like, nope, no, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
so it just the simple path, right, to not coin the
Yeah.
phrase is winning out in their minds without me even like pushing it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. That's great. Maybe they'll be, like chartered financial analysts in the future and like be managing huge hedge funds or something. Who knows? Maybe
Maybe.
they're really
Maybe
actually
they can go
interested.
ahead and not beat the index as a fund manager and make a lot of money doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really lucky, like early, somehow, I don't know, I'm just a weird high schooler, I guess, but I read like the Boglehead's Guide to Investing when I was in high school. So like that really set me on the right the right path in investing. So thankfully I didn't get caught up in the day trading or I don't know, crypto schemes and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, you kind of or I don't know if you really touched on it, but something you said reminded me of this. Like you are a personal finance teacher, you're a history teacher. How much do you bring history into the personal finance class? Like, are you covering? Like something that I didn't know until relatively recently is that women weren't allowed to have their own credit card until the 70s, you know, or like women couldn't buy property. They had to get a co-signer on a mortgage. They couldn't buy property by themselves. Like how much is there a blend between history and personal finance for your class?
I haven't been really doing a lot of the blend on that. The reasons for that is because we have a stellar economics class that goes a
Mm-hmm.
lot into like like it's the historical economics. Like we don't just do
Mm-hmm.
like, let's talk about supply and demand. It's like, no, let's read
Mm-hmm.
Adam Smith and like, understand what's
Oh,
happening. So it's
cool.
a very historical based economics class. And then, we've got great history, of course, things like that. And also, frankly, I've got a semester. I don't have a lot of time. Like I'm
Yeah, so
barely fitting
much to
everything
cover.
in that I can.
Mhm.
But I think like, as far as historical goes, we do talk a lot about the historical trends of like, the stock market and then the index. And we look at like, the events that have
Mhm.
majorly moved that and
Yeah,
like, how can you make projections based on like what the stocks have done historically to understand your risk and for like, time horizon, time frame, things like that. That's where I brought in the history to make sure like we understand why was it up here and then down here. Got to talk about
hmm
that event. But I haven't gotten into all of the other, I mean, there's so much that we could get
so
into
much to cover.
personal
Yeah.
finance. The only snippet I've really done of that is there's a piece in the psychology of money that like gives like a background of consumer in America for the past 60 years, which I think
hmm
is helpful. It's good context, but that's as much as I've been able to do.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, that's true for all curriculum, right? It's like there's so much to cover, not enough time ever. So, um, yeah, something I'm really looking forward to is like right now I'm a full-time financial planner. I'm really hoping, I just had a baby last year, but I'm really hoping maybe by the time he's in kindergarten, so in like 5 years, I can start teaching personal finance at the high school level because we'll be mandating a personal finance class in California here in by 2027. So I would love to run some ideas by you and see what you think about like how feasible these ideas are for my future classroom. Fingers crossed I get to find a role doing that.
Yeah, let's do it.
um, I really love this idea of maybe having kids get like have homework assignments where they have to talk to their parents about money. But I would love your opinion because I can see that going very badly. Like it could be a very controversial thing, or like maybe kids might be embarrassed, parents might be embarrassed about something. But I also really want to find a way to have this one maybe impact the whole family positively, and then two make it more real for them, which is like such a struggle when like they don't have their own money to work with. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that involving the family is a great idea. And before you said, embarrass them, just to give you an idea of how bad it can be. I talked all about, because in the Simple Path to Wealth, he explains why financial advisors tend to not be good,
Not be
right?
worth it. Yeah.
Not be
Mm-hmm.
worth it. And one of my students' mom is a financial advisor, and she's like called me out, like, "You're trying to like take away my job." I'm like, "I'm just pointing out redundancy sometimes." Like, I need to probably talk to her and be like, "Yeah, it's not all financial advisors, but
Yeah, it's hard.
anyways,
Most,
it's
I would
hard."
say.
So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
point is, I've been chastised by a parent for it, so there can be controversy. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why, first of all, it's important to not say like this is the right way, like you
Mm-hmm.
must do it this way, because
Mm-hmm.
parents might have a different point of view, and they don't want you mandating like your view of personal
Mm-hmm.
finance on the kid. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the majority of parents really want to hear about it. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know themselves, and they would
Mm-hmm.
like to learn, but they haven't had the time. They haven't had the knowledge of where to go or things like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe a middle point between homework, like you must talk to your parents for like equity's sake, not doing that, and just like being like forget your parents would be like a newsletter, something you're saying at home. It's like, hey, here are some concepts that we talked about this week. Here's a
Mm-hmm.
brief synopsis of these ideas and how they apply. How about you ask your student, these questions at the dinner table or when you're
Mm-hmm.
driving to soccer practice or whatever, and they can learn from their student with the questions that you provide for them to talk about. Now, whether they use them or not, I don't know, but I know that when I was in a classroom, uh, I had nothing but good comments from parents about sending home a weekly newsletter
Mm.
about what was happening in my classroom. They absolutely loved it. So I think that's a good middle ground.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you so much. Um, Another idea and I kind of was asking the question earlier about the history plus personal finance because of this idea I have is to like talk about the kind of the real concentration of wealth that's been happening over the last like I don't know 60 years in our country and I think it's kind of a tricky question to bring up. It could also be controversial because there's like the wealth gap generally where I think like 70% of the wealth in America is in the hands of like 10% of the population, something like that. I read it somewhere recently. I'll have to go see if I can find the source. Um, but then that wealth gap gets even more, I guess, exacerbated when you break it down by gender, by ethnicity, race. Like, what do you think about bringing this up as a topic? Like, do you think there's some guardrails we should have around a conversation about this? And like, yeah, what even activities we might even do around it? Yeah, love to hear
Yeah, I
thoughts.
mean, I think that the most important thing is to point out the neutral data, first of all. Like, people are
Mm-hmm.
going to argue, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the arguments are based on misunderstanding or misconceptions or just things their parents said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, it is incontrovertible that the wealth of the wealthiest is larger by percentage than the wealth of the like middle class and the lower class than it was like in the 1950s. Like it has gotten bigger. There's
Mm-hmm.
no statistical, song and dance about that. That has definitely happened. And then, you can, continue to pull out the statistical views of that. But I think that if you're going to do that and then like start breaking it down by ethnicity and gender and things like that, you'd really want to make sure you have a solid understanding of the statistics that went behind that because statistics, as we all know, are massageable, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
That's
able
true.
to take a picture and zoom in, zoom out, move the margins. Like there's all sorts of things we can do to make statistics say what we want them to say.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to view it in as many different lenses as possible so that we are clear, like this is actually what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then not trying to prove a point, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we've given them all that data, I think that having them go and study the issue themselves to then come back and have a discussion about it
Mm-hmm.
would
Mm-hmm.
be a really fun way to approach that. So that way it's not just, this is what it is, this is what you have to, write this down, make sure you're ready for the test, but it's just like a open discussion. And then the guardrails
Yeah.
behind that are like, you can debate someone's ideas, but you cannot call someone names, like, things like that.
Mm.
You want to make sure that
Yeah.
they're discussing the idea, not
Topic.
the
Yeah.
not the not name calling or mudslinging or
Name
anything like that.
calling. Yeah.
I believe that discussion is one of the absolute best things that we can do in a classroom, and personal finance is a great place to have some, pretty throwdown discussions on, no, this is the right thing to do, no, that's the right thing to do, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
or no, this is true, that's true. Like it's what I
Mm-hmm.
love about personal finance is it is application. Like the
Yeah.
entire course is application. Like you have your ideas about what the right path is. You're writing about it. You're conveying it. You're speaking out. This is what I think we should do. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know that what you're saying is true. Well, you got to do the math to make sure that your idea is actually borne out mathematically as being the right path forward. Or if it isn't mathematically optimal, why it's better than the mathematically optimal version, right? And then you're writing that says like math and English together in a personal finance course in application
Yeah.
is really what we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so exciting. And I love this idea too that they're kind of maybe unintentionally planning their future. Like it's probably maybe one of the first times that they've had the opportunity to say, like, oh, yeah, I want to, I don't know, whatever they might tell you, like, I want to go travel the world or something. And then you can talk about, like, okay, like, if you want to make that a reality, like, let's talk about the numbers. Like, how can you make that happen? So it's nice to have them bring some intentionality to their money versus like just letting it happen to them. Like, oh, this is just what's going on in my finances. Like, yeah, it's exciting. Um, I had one last idea that I want to run by you, and then I'll hand it back to you. Have you ever done this? I'm curious, like asked your students to write down money beliefs they have and then do a discussion around those and whether, like maybe debunking some myths or helping them, transition to a more positive mindset if they have something negative. Yeah.
That's a really good idea to like really go through and try and debunk them. So I have had them reflect on their money beliefs, their money mindset, their money
Mhm.
story is what I called it at the beginning of the year. And I've commented on them. I think a deeper dive into that, deeper reflection, a deeper like, well, why do you believe that? Is that true?
Mhm.
Type of thing. That might be good to do that in like, all right, where are you at right now? And then
Mhm.
midway through, maybe, okay, where are you at now? And then have a conversation with them. And then at the end, where are you at now? Like have them like see their money beliefs change potentially.
Yeah.
That could be good. Um, but like I said, I think reflection is huge. I do have them do reflection. I just haven't gone like into the deep, like, all right, now let's start debunking some of your money myths.
Yeah.
However, I feel like a lot of them are kind of debunking them themselves. Like, I've had multiple
Yeah.
people be like, "Oh, I am just like such a spender, but in this class, I realized it's probably not a good idea. I should,
Mm,
I have this writing assignment. If you had $100,000, what would you do with it?" And this
mm.
girl's like, "Well, I would spend a little bit of it, but then I know that I need to invest this." Or I think,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's like, thank you for being honest. You would probably spend a little bit of it, but instead of spending all of it, she's like, no, I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll have like 10,000 left to,
Mhm.
have a good time with, and like, so she knows where she was at, and she's seen where she wants to be. I think that just having them
Yeah.
consistently reflect on like,
Yeah.
the right path forward is a great way to do that.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I'd love to hear that.
All right. Well, we are coming towards the end of our discussion here. I've really appreciated this. Has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
so I just wanted to, put this back on you with a question of, you know, if we could teach one thing that's going to stick in a personal finance class, what do you think the most important thing to stick with our students is?
Oh, this is such a good question. I might change my mind later, but this is something that I've thought about even just for my clients is or even people that talk to me and they don't end up becoming clients of mine, like people that I just want to either help for free because they can't afford a financial planner, which I completely understand. Like I couldn't afford a financial planner for most of my career. Um, I tell everyone to try to develop a financial literacy habit. And I think that you'll probably agree, like they could be that could look like listening to this podcast. It could look like listening to a different podcast about personal finance, like Bigger Pockets or something, which isn't, real estate and personal finance combined. It could be just picking a random personal finance book at the library once a month. It doesn't have to look any which particular way, or if you're already on TikTok, maybe you just find a personal finance guru that you like to follow on TikTok. So I think like that is probably the most impactful thing that I can ask people to do, because as long as you maintain that learning journey, at some point I think you'll either figure out how to manage your money well, if you don't already, or you'll figure out how to ask the right questions or find the right people, trustworthy people that aren't going to like scam you, to like actually help you achieve whatever financial goals you have. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's fantastic. A money habit. That's fantastic. All right. So if somebody listening is like, hey, I could use a financial planner that is, geared towards helping teachers, or they just want to ask you a question, what is the best way someone can get in contact with you?
Yeah, and I want to emphasize, like, people can work with me in so many different ways. I've done a lot of like free sessions with people. I've done full-blown financial planning with people. Like I really try to help people where, meet them where they're at. But people can reach me either by texting or calling me at 970-773-4439. You might notice that's a Colorado area code. I don't know how I ended up with that. I live in Los Angeles, California, so somehow I got that zip code and then or phone code. And then my email is Gabbi, Gabbi at sustain-financial.com. Or you can also just go to our website, which is sustain-financial.com. Yeah. Thanks.
I love that. So when I saw your number, I used to live in the 970 area code
Wow.
area in Colorado. I'm like, oh, maybe she's from that, Western Colorado area. And then you're like California. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know how I ended up with the zip code. It's very confusing.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a great area to live if you ever want to be in the Western Colorado area. It's very nice. But anyway, you know what, Gabby, this has been a great conversation. I just want to wrap it up with my final question I ask all my guests, which is, what is your number one tip for teachers to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life?
Oh, actually my same tip here is what I said earlier to like have that ongoing financial habit. But since I want to have something else in addition to that, just not repeat myself, as I mentioned, my mom has been an elementary school teacher for over 20 years. My dad uh, started teaching after he retired from the military. And so he's been doing it for like 10 or 15 years now. And the biggest thing I've seen make a positive difference in helping them live a richer life, and not just financially, but like, socially, emotionally, all these things, is like they finally learned how to set good boundaries with work. And I know you've talked about this on the show, is like, you leave when your contracted hours are over. Like I had an epiphany my first year or second year maybe, where I was like, oh, like I can increase my hourly rate if I just stop working as much, or like my mom is so good at, like, she wants to help tutor the kids after school, and she's found a way to get paid for that, like through the district. So either leaving when you're not going to, when your contract ends, or advocating, talking to the principal, the district, whoever, to get that money so that you are fairly paid for the work that you're doing. I mean, like I said earlier, my mom voluntold me a lot in her classroom. So, if you can't get paid more for something, try to recruit help. And there are a lot of people willing to help. But yeah, I think setting those work boundaries is like going to make such a huge difference for people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Work boundaries. Go home, people. Okay.
Go
Anyway,
home.
I just cannot emphasize enough how much I agree with that statement. But anyway, Gabby, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I would say that was an amazing episode, but she was kind of interviewing me, so I feel like that's a little self-serving. But I just want to point out that this was all about having a better classroom teaching personal finance. Whether you're a personal finance teacher or not, you can bring in some of these ideas into your class. Hopefully, these things are still applicable in history, in math, in music, or wherever, and also in a personal finance class that hopefully you will get to teach in the very near future, because we need good personal finance teachers so we don't get jaded people who don't want to learn because they think it's boring and useless. That's all I have to say about our discussion today. And remember, as a teacher, you are already rich. Your wallet just needs to catch up. If you would like help on your personal financial situation, go to teachermoneyshow.com/coaching and you'll be able to find different ways that I can help you there. If you would like to participate in spreading this message of financial empowerment to teachers, I would encourage you to talk to your administrator or to your district level about going to SeanKMorgan.com to find more information there. And regardless of which one of those you need, please like and subscribe so that way we can spread the reach of this more. Leave a 5-star rating and review. That's going to help more teachers find this, and then turn around and tell a teacher friend. I really appreciate it. The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither I nor my guests are engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should not act upon this information without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional.